Welcome back to the second video on the Remington 700 build series. Now, in the last episode, we put on the rail, which is a nice steel Wayne 20 MOA rail to get us a bit more reach on our scope. And today we're going to be mounting the rings in the scope. And the scope we're starting off with is a nice Falcon Optics 4 to 14 by 44. It's a nice first focal plane, nice fine crosshair, and that'll get us. It'll get us to 1,000, but it's a little bit low in magnification at 14 times to get a good confirmation at 1,000 of a hit. But we'll see what we're going to do along the series with that. Now, the rail is bedded and it's all solid. The red Loctite has gone off hours and probably a day ago. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on my scope rings. But before I put on my scope rings, I want to make sure that I have a level from the action. Now, the easiest place to level a Remington is from the flat rail top if you have a Picatinny rail on it. Now, the reason I am using a Picatinny rail, other than I like the way they look, is it adds an extra bit of strength to the action itself. Remington actions, they have an open top, and it's even open far to the left hand side, and that takes away a little bit from the strength, and it can change the harmonics. A lot of the more expensive high-end actions you can buy, the port is just big enough for the bullet to come out. The port can even be shorter with a little bit of a gap for a longer tip bullet, but in general you don't find them with a big port that's gone straight across the top of the action. So adding a full length steel Picatinny rail adds a little bit more structure to it, and when we go over a bit more of harmonics and such, I'll go through why it is a good idea versus split bass and just two rings, or whatever way you want to do it. But for now, we're just going to go with this. And what I have here, I have two levels in action, which you can see, and they're both reading completely level. Two different brand bubbles, which I bought. I think these are Wheeler levels, these two yellow ones, and this one, I honestly don't remember what it is. I've had this for so long. This clamps onto the Picatinny rail, and these are magnetized to the steel. So as long as you confirm with a calibrated level that your bubbles are square, you can take them for that. They're not going to move. So this one here, I just have this here just to show you. I normally wouldn't put this one on. But this is square, so is this. And the one I've balanced on the barrel here, which is magnetized, is also square. Now obviously I'm not going to be able to get the mounts on with these here, so these are going to come off now that I've confirmed that the front one is square, and that's the one I'm going to be reading off from now on. I could probably leave this low one on, but we're just going to go with this. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at our rings. Now the set of rings I have, and I use these for a long time, and they seem to be very good for their price point, is a set of Burst XTR rings. They're an aluminium 6 bolt ring. They do have a perfect bottom on them here now. It's nice and flat, and then you can see the rod going across the middle with a flat area, which is the front facing part of the ring, and this will go up against the flat face on the Picatinny. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to place these where roughly I want them. Now I know I want to bring this one back a tiny bit. I'm going to push it forwards and just hand tighten it. Same thing with this. This is one I want back. I like to kind of leave as much of the port open as possible. So this is going to go in the far back one. I'm going to push it forwards and tighten it up here, hand tight. So that's the basis just on there loose, just so we can set up distances and such on the scope. I like the 6 stud ones just because it gives a little bit more rigidity again when you're having an open top action. It's just something else that can shore up your action, and it helps with the harmonics. Everything that's solid and won't move is fantastic. So we got our scope here. We're going to drop it on. Now I know how far back the scope has to be because I've had this type on before, and for me it's right there. But at the moment we don't know if it's square or not. Now I'm not going to show you how in this video how I do it with a plumb line. I'm going to show you a much quicker way which gets you really, really close results within a degree plus or minus. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drop on our scope levels, scope caps. I'm going to put the one with the little Picatinny on the front just because when I mount a torch I like to keep it up there. So I'm just going to leave them on for now. we're going to get our little screw here, screwdriver, and when you're screwing them down, especially if they're dirty or a little bit older, before you start screwing in, screw backwards, a couple of twists, and you'll hear a click of the screw falling into position into the thread. And especially with a steel screw and an aluminium ring, you really don't want to start cross-threading because you can get a couple of turns in there before you really notice it. You'll be able to hear it. There. And I can go forward. And I know I'm in the raceway. So I'm just going to use my nail as a spacer on the far side. Tighten down the middle screw so I know where the gap is. And I've done these particular rings lots of times, so I know what the gap looks like on this side for the gap matching up on that side. Then I'm going to just tighten crossways. So the middle two, then left and right in the next pattern. And these are just snugging them down. We're not putting any torque in them yet. So same thing with this one. Screw back. There we go. And we're ready. So we're just going to screw these down. Make sure none of these get in the way. Okay, the gap is good on that side. And the gap is good on this side. Okay, so now it's locked, so I'm just going to finish screwing down and I'm going to then level it. And once it's level, I'm going to show you a little quick neat trick to get it level by eye much easier than actually looking through the scope and guessing. Okay, so it's going to loosen it up so I can rotate the scope and the mounts. Okay, so now we're going to level off our action, which is there, and then we're going to level off our scope. I'll try and do it this way so you can see it. There we go. Now, you're just going to give them a turn and a half just to lock it down in this position. You don't want to go too far in either direction when you're tightening it up, just because you don't want it to roll the scope. The torque rating on these guys is 15 inch-pounds per screw, so it's not very heavy, but it's a fairly standard number. And that's what we're going to set it to. We're going to torque this down on the rings. Okay. And we'll just go alongside. We're not going all the way down to full torque on any screw yet, because you're going to have to redo it anyway. Once you get one screw to a torque, it's going to push down and release the tension on another one. You just do middle, left, right, and just do it in an X pattern after that. Now 15 doesn't feel like a lot of pressure, but it's 15 by 6 bolts or screws, so it really is squeezing down a lot. And there's a big surface area on these scope caps, which does give it a good bite and a good even pressure along the tube, which is great. Right, so now that's done. I'm just going to undo these screws on the bottom. And the beauty about Picatinny rails is you can take the scope off once it's mounted and zeroed, put this in the safe, put this somewhere else that you want to be knocking around, take it out, line it back up, push it on, torque it down. It'll go to the exact same zero. I've done it to many guns. I do it to 2 of my guns all the time that won't fit in the safe with the scope on. So what I'm going to do is just making sure that the flat face of the 2 rails is facing forwards. Place it back, and I know my back one is in the last gap. Push it up forwards. Snug it up with our finger here, and then we're going to torque down. Now this is a 300 Win Mag, so I think the torque spec for these is 50. I'm going to give them 55 inch-pounds. I wouldn't go much higher because they are aluminium. I mean, I have steel knife force rings which go to, I think, 75 inch-pounds on the base. But I wouldn't go much higher than 55 on a pair of aluminium rings. Okay. So it's pushed forwards, it's all square up. I'm just going to tighten her up. And there we go. That's our scope on, and we can take the level off. Now I already know that this is the perfect height for my cheek, or the distance from my eye. And looking at it, it's pretty damn square. The bottom of the crosshair is coming straight down through the bottom of the bolt. And if I'm back behind it, the aperture of the light is passing down along the bottom crosshair. When the crosshair is just disappearing, it's passing through the bottom of the bolt, which is exactly what you want. So we're going to take this out, and we're going to zero it really quick, and then we're going to do a 3-shot group. Now, because I've shot this before, I have a pretty good idea that the 3-shot group is going to be stacked. Just because when you put pressure on this bipod, it pulls down the front and pushes up the back here, changing the weight that's on the barrel and the pressure that's against the barrel. And it affects harmonics slightly, but that doesn't do it a whole lot at 100. But what it does shift the barrel, which makes a big difference at 100 meters. So we're going to go 0 and a 3-shot group, and we'll come back after that.
Two inches, well, almost 1 point, maybe 1.8.
So now you can see the group that was shot, and we got a pretty quick 0 just by doing a quick bore sight by looking down the barrel at the target at 100 meters, then matching up the crosshair. What this shows me is the chassis is not designed for this. Now, I don't think this gun was ever designed for this kind of shooting with a loaded bipod, just because of the flimsy front end. The slightly more expensive version of this, the SPS Varmint, or the police one, has a much stronger forend on its chassis, which can take a lot more bipod pressure without having to push up against the barrel. And it's just the way that this chassis is it's not designed for precision work off a bipod, just because of the non-floating barrel and the pressure that can be put directly into the barrel from that. So now that we have a 0 and a group, even though it is a tall group, what we're going to do is we're going to put this into a Boyd stock in the next episode, and we're also going to bed it. So the bedding that's in this is going to be cut back, and it's going to be rebedded for this action. And we're going to make sure there's adequate clearance in the barrel from the forend up here, but with the how rigid these stocks are, the verticality in the groups is just going to disappear after we get this new chassis on here. So we'll see you back for that video, and thanks for watching.